Hello and welcome to my Christian fiction podcast, where I share stories with you. Right now, you're listening to Buried Secrets, written and read by Eunice Wilkie. Chapter 10. September 2022. Mysteries from the Wild podcast. Draft notes for Buried Secrets series, episode 9. I don't know what I expected the second skeleton at the archaeological dig to reveal. No, that's not strictly true. I do know what I expected. Another set of remains stolen from the Urquhart mausoleum and buried at the dig site in an amateurish attempt to sabotage the excavation and annoy the Urquharts. All orchestrated by their long-standing enemies, the Vasses, likely by the same bullies I had encountered earlier that day. But what we found suggested a far darker explanation than mere grave robbery. Had James Martin been murdered and buried at the Stone Circle in 1977? Had young Terry Vass witnessed it and then scrawled that childish note pointing at 5 murderers? Or was the far-fetched theory I had discussed with John actually true? Could Donald Urquhart have been murdered and secretly buried at the Stone Circle all these years, rather than resting in his family vault? And what about the bizarre items buried alongside the remains? Were they part of some ritual, or an elaborate hoax designed to mislead anyone who discovered the body? I'm more eager than ever to visit Edith Seagrave again, and Archie Martin, to ask more questions about James Martin. I also need to dig deeper into the dusty tomes about the Urquhart family, hoping they will shed more light on what really happened in this rural glen during the Urquhart-Vass conflicts of the 1970s and 1980s. I'm almost certain I'll find more clues. Before I can pursue either lead, John and I pop in to see Jack Urquhart, actually on our way back from our trip to the archaeological dig. With us, we carry a photo of the ski-and-do found in the grave. John wants to know if the clan crest on the dagger is the Urquhart's family badge, and while he could doubtless have discovered the answer through other means, since we're passing, we may as well ask a chief member of the clan. The dagger itself is now police evidence. There's a slim chance it holds DNA, potential evidence in a murder investigation. John is already treating this second discovery of human remains as an unlawful killing, even without an official ruling. Dr. Rita's confirmation that the skull bears a significant head injury is enough for him. This revelation has subtly shifted his attitude towards the case. It's now a priority. He's far less inclined to dismiss Terry Vass's childhood note, or the subsequent mausoleum vandalism and disturbances at the dig, as mere coincidence or petty criminality. As we drive down the bumpy track on our way to see Jack, I ask, if the ski-and-do does bear the Urquhart clan crest, what does that prove? Not much, John admits, except that it would steer the investigation towards the Urquhart-Vass conflict of the 1970s, rather than some unrelated, random killing. It hadn't seriously occurred to me that the body could be anyone other than James Martin's or, at a stretch, Donald Urquhart's. But I admire John for seeking hard evidence first, rather than fitting facts to a preferred theory. Which, indirectly, nudges me to ask, have you made any progress on your investigation into whether the Bible tallies with reality? John is reserved by nature, but when it comes to discussing the Bible, he's anything but hesitant. He isn't embarrassed by his interest in something many would consider outdated and irrelevant. He's simply unconcerned with what others think. He makes up his own mind. Any massive discrepancies, like two-headed people, I add, thinking back to our previous conversation on the matter. He smiles wryly. No massive discrepancies. He tells me he's been reading books on the subject, and I can easily picture him poring over weighty tomes most of his peers would shudder at. But this occupation suits the thoughtful academic in him. It contrasts sharply with his more active interests, running with a local club and training with the mountain rescue team, where he serves as a leader. One book he's reading delves into how the Bible explains the nature of humanity. How does it? I prompt. The Bible's account aligns with the idea that people are personal, conscious, moral beings with free will and unique personalities. I've never considered this before. Are you saying atheism, for example, doesn't account for why humans turned out the way we are? He nods. I've never really thought about the problems that arise if you assume there's only a physical universe, he admits. I suspect many haven't. But John doesn't let himself off the hook. What kind of problems? I ask. Atheism assumes that everything is purely physical, that all reality can be reduced to material substances, governed by the laws of physics and chemistry. So humans are just a vast collection of cells, controlled by a brain, I interject. Exactly. John slows to avoid running over a scurrying pheasant. If we're nothing more than physical matter, he continues, then reason, free thought, and belief, any belief, are just the inevitable outcome of chemical reactions. No real choice is involved. So thinking is what? Just neurons firing because of chemical reactions, and I have no control over it? Precisely, John agrees. Under that view, your thoughts are just biological responses. You have no more control over them than you do over the way your lungs breathe or your kidneys filter blood. And that view eliminates morality, rationality, logic, basically everything that makes us human, John finishes. And that's a problem, I muse, because it doesn't fit with how people actually are. John turns left through the stone pillars marking the entrance to Mains of Strathavie, where we're meeting Jack Urquhart. As we drive up the track, I reflect on how far John has shifted from his pragmatic skepticism. He once refused to acknowledge that God could be real. Now he's arguing that a purely physical view of reality is untenable. I think back to his comment about people being personal beings. It doesn't seem likely, does it, that something impersonal could produce personal beings? Wouldn't personal beings be created by a personal God? But that's a philosophical debate for another time. Less satisfying than John's discoveries about the Bible, which, though I'm enjoying, won't make my podcast, was Jack's verdict on the ski and do. He takes one look at the photo and shakes his head. It isn't the Urquhart clan crest on the dagger. As we follow the track downhill through the forest, heading back to the office, I note the changing season. The bracken browning, birch saplings turning gold, rowan trees heavy with red berries. Time is moving on, and the murder investigation must move with it. One thing is certain. John will be delving into the disappearance of James Martin in 1977. And my research will play a part.